Welcome everyone from the waiting room. We're going to give it just a couple more minutes here for folks to file in virtually, and then we will get started. I see some familiar faces. Good to see you guys. All right, let's go ahead and get started, and I will just let people in as they show up. This is the training for the FCA All Abilities Camp. This is the point where I say if you found yourself in the wrong training and you need to hop off, now's the time to get out of here. If not, you're in the right spot, and we're excited to have you. We are going to fly through training this evening, okay? I know an hour seems like a long time, but we're really just going to do an overview on a lot of stuff. And with that said, these training slides will be sent out after training, okay? So our goal today is to provide you with an overview, but as we approach camp, if you need to dive in a little bit deeper, we will send you a recording of this as well as the slides that you can dive deeper into. And many of these slides have a lot of information in the notes section of the slide. So as you get the presentation, you might want to dig into that section. And in particular, when we talk about the particular disabilities that we will encounter at camp, we have some videos in these slides that we're not going to show during training, but that you can go back to later on. So we're excited to have you. We're excited for camp, and we're ready to get rolling with this training here. So next, I'll jump into our training goals. Our goals for tonight are to familiarize FCA volunteers with their roles and responsibilities. We also want to enhance your comfort level in working with athletes with special needs. And we also want to provide some useful strategies to getting the best out of the athletes you work with. And our training agenda, for those of you who would like a little checklist to work through as we move our way through through training here. First and foremost, we will talk about FCA Camp Basics. And then from there, one second.
Okay, I can't hear him.
One moment. There we go. We should be good. Okay. Oh, maybe not. Okay. I have muted. Sorry about that, guys. If you could just try and stay muted throughout training. Okay, so we'll first and foremost talk about FCA and Camp Basics. And then from there, we'll go to the role of volunteers at camp. And from there, we will get to know some of our campers and some of the disabilities that you might encounter at camp. And from there, we'll talk about some communication skills and tips with respect to communicating with our campers. And from there, we'll get into some of the specific camp activities. And then from there, we'll get into safety and other concerns, and we'll wrap up with a few questions there at the end. Next, I will introduce our training team. So Sarah Steimley, I don't think she can be on this training or she hasn't joined us yet. And so Sarah has helped us compile this though, and she works with Jacob's Ladder Fitness and Youth Challenge. And then from there, there's Joan Bauer. Joan's waving there, and then Megan Smoke.
Hi, guys.
And then Michaela Bush will not be joining us tonight either. She's got a cough and a sore throat that is making her voice not work tonight. So Megan's going to take over for Michaela's portion. And I am Tristan. I will be the director of camp this year, and I'll be leading you through training tonight, as well as Megan and Joan and possibly Sarah. So that's our team. And now I'm going to get into FCA and Camp Basics. Okay, so what is FCA? FCA exists to see the world transformed by Jesus Christ through the influence of coaches and athletes. So we sort of stand at the intersection of the Christian faith and sports, and we do all sorts of activities in that space. Camp would just be a small picture of what we do. And the way in which we do that is we engage, equip, and empower volunteers, mostly coaches and athletes, to engage in and take ownership in a piece of the ministry, okay? And you guys are a great example of volunteers that we have already engaged Now here we are at training, equipping you, and then at camp, we hope to empower you to carry out the mission of FCA while at camp. And the purposes of camp, as I see them, there are just two. If we accomplish these two purposes at camp, camp is a phenomenal success, you guys, okay? The first one is boundaryless fun, okay? And what I mean by that is if a camper wants to participate in an activity, we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. Adapt it and do whatever we can. We will not force a camper to do anything, okay? Camp is all about the campers. And as volunteer, our role is to assist the campers as needed to engage in camp activities. That means that if a camper wants to run around the football field in the end zone, assuming he or she is not interfering with any of the other campers, then that is what we will help him or her do at camp, okay? So that's boundaryless fun. Our second goal is unconditional love, okay? And this spirit of unconditional love will be the foundation with which we interact with campers, families of campers, and other volunteers, okay? And even in the midst of competition, I'll remind you guys, I know we've got some competitive people on the call. Even in the midst of competition, I want you to compete in love, okay? The number one goal of camp, far and above any of the sports and activities, is that every camper walks away feeling protected, loved, and encouraged. Once again, you guys, that is the number one goal, okay? That's what we want campers to walk away with as we move out of camp on Saturday. And to display that, I just want to show you guys a quick video clip. This clip is of Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and I think it is one of the most beautiful clips of television I have ever seen in my life. Mr. Rogers is interacting with Jeff Erlanger, a young man with a disability here, and I love the way in which he does it, and even the lyrics of the song that they sing while they're singing. So I'm just going to press play on this and let you guys watch it for a bit. We hope because Jeff was going to have One second, I'm wondering if I didn't have the audio on that. There we go. All right. How about now?
We wrote because Jeff was going to have spinal fusion and be in a what they call a halo,
Cast, a halo
metal
cast.
rim, and then cast on his shoulders and bolted
All the way down his
together.
trunk.
And, yeah,
We
he may
weren't
not
sure.
have survived the surgery. And so we said, you know, what would you like to do? This is going to be a really big task for you, and so we want to kick it off with something that would be really special.
Mr. Rogers?
Hey, Jeff. I'm glad to see you.
Hi.
Thank you very much for coming by. Can you tell my friends what it is that made you need this wheelchair?
Sure. Well, when I was about 7 months old, I had a tumor, and it broke the nerves to tell my hands and legs what to do.
I see.
And I got a wheelchair when I was 4 years old.
That was your first one
Mm-hmm.
when you were 4.
Uh-huh.
He told Jeff before they started that they would have a chat and then sing a song together.
I think he said we might sing a song. I
Yeah,
remember because
yeah.
I mean I was sort of surprised. What, he's going to start singing a song? Well, you know, this is totally not even what song.
It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you do your hair. But it's you I like. The way you are right now. The way down deep inside you. Not the things that
I do.
not your fancy chair. That's just beside you. But it's you I like. Every part of you. Your skin, your eyes, your feelings, whether old or new. I hope that you'll remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like.
It's you yourself. It's you. It's you. I like.
And it is you I like, Jeff.
Thanks.
And there must be.
All right, you guys. Yeah, so I just love showing that clip because I think it embodies what we're trying to accomplish at camp. Two human beings connecting on one level, and in particular, the lyrics of that song, "It's You I Like," paint a vivid picture of what we're trying to accomplish here at camp. We want these campers to know that it's them that we like. It's nothing about them. It's not what they can do, what they can't do, but it is them that we like just the way that they are. So just want to share that with you guys, remind you of that, and encourage you to engage at camp with that spirit of love and all that we do. I'll go on to the basics of camp. So the basics of camp are very simple, okay, you guys? So it's Friday, June 17th and Saturday, June 18th, 2022, Cuyahoga Valley Christian Academy. We have 91 campers, all between the ages of 4 and 25, all with disabilities. And our sports and activities this year will be soccer, football, baseball, and softball. And then there will be a general fitness and sort of obstacle course type of station as well. And the camp schedule for this year, volunteer arrival will begin at 4:00 p.m. on day one, okay? So we took some of your recommendations from last year. We tried to cut down our volunteer check-in time, and so it's a little bit later this year. It'll be 4:00 p.m. for volunteer arrival. 4:30 p.m. we will do a pre-camp volunteer huddle, and then at 4:45 camper arrival will begin, and at 5:30 camp will begin, and we'll have a welcome meeting, followed by stretching and warm up, and then the sports and activity rotation for a couple of hours there at camp on day one, or I'm sorry, for an hour 15. And then we'll wind down at 7:05 and camp will end at 7:40. And then we'll have a post-camp volunteer huddle at 7:50 and tear down at 8:15, okay? And so what we want here is ensure that you arrive at least before 4:30 to get checked in so that you can get to that pre-camp volunteer huddle. That's where we will have a quick powwow to just make sure that you remember all of our objectives and goals for the day. We'll have a reminder of what the agenda looks like for the day, and it'll just be a great opportunity for you guys to ask any questions that you might have before camp kicks off. And then of course, campers will start arriving at 4:45 and we will continue on with camp. On Friday also, please note that we will have a post-camp volunteer huddle. Just an opportunity once again to meet, to discuss what went well, what went poorly, and what we need to improve on for the next day. And then we will ask that everybody sticks around on both days to help tear down as well. So day 2, Saturday, will be similar to day 1, but a little bit longer. So day 2 will start at 8:00 when volunteer arrival begins. Then from there, we will have that pre-camp volunteer huddle at 8:15. Campers will start to arrive at 8:30, and then camp will begin at 9:00, okay? And then from there, we'll go into the stretching and warm up and sports and activity rotations until 11:30, when we all meet back at midfield for the spiritual lesson. I should say that before camp and after camp each day, the entire group will meet at midfield on the turf field, okay? So 11:30 a.m. on Saturday, we will all meet at midfield for the wind down and spiritual lesson. Camp will end at 12:00 p.m. and then the awards banquet will begin at 12:30 and go till 2:00. And there will be tear down after that at 2:15, which once again, we would love for you guys to stick around with. So, or stick around for, I'm sorry. And please note also, there will be no post-camp volunteer huddle on Saturday, okay? We will send out a follow-up survey to all of our volunteers after camp. So just please note that. Okay, and now I will show you the facility map. And so this is just an overview of CVCA. I want you guys to see that right here is what we're calling field number 2, which is campers ages 9 and under. And then the large turf field is what we're calling field number 1, which is campers ages 10 plus, okay? And then as far as parking goes, when you arrive at camp, we're gonna ask volunteers to park in parking lot 2 or parking lot 3, okay? We're gonna ask volunteers to park in parking lot 2 or 3. I've been told that there's construction on the back side of the building, but I have been told also that you can find your way through it, okay? So Find your way through the construction along the gravel road to check in over here in front of the large turf field. And the reason we're asking volunteers to park over here is because we want to reserve parking lot number 1 for our campers. So just keep that in mind as you park. Also, this circle that says indoor facility, that is where we will do the banquet. This is an old picture, so it's not currently on this picture, but there's a large building right here that we will do our banquet in, okay? And of course, this is Waiaga Lake Road where you will come into campus on. And for those of you that are on field number 2, I just want to note as well, there will be a orange construction fence around field number 2 this year. And we'll get into why that is later on in the presentation, but that will help with elopement and challenges there with campers running and things of that nature. So please just note that as well. Okay, and this is just a zoom in on where we were at there. Not a whole lot different there. You can see check-ins right here on the front end of the stadium. Campers ages 9 and under here, campers ages 10 plus, and then the indoor facility. And this is an example of what each field will look like, okay? So you'll have 4 stations. So you might have the football station, the softball station, the soccer station, and the fitness and ninja station. And we will have 4 groups of campers on each field, okay? So the campers will rotate after a set amount of time at each station. So we might have one group that rotates from football to softball and baseball, then to soccer, and then they finish up at the fitness station and the Ninja Warrior course, okay? And so also each field will have a nurses station and a cooling station on it. This cooling station will have water jugs where you can go and fill your camper's water bottle up. And of course, the nurses will be there for any medical needs that arise. Okay, and I'm going to jump into talk a little bit about the role of our volunteers. Who are our volunteers? First and foremost, just so you guys know, we have multiple different organizations that are coming in and playing a role in this camp. Summit DD has played a large role in helping us plan and execute camp for the past couple of years. Akron Children's Hospital has done the same. Jacob's Ladder Fitness, phenomenal organization up in Cleveland that serves people with disabilities. World Elite Gym is also helping with the obstacle course portion. Inclusioneers is bringing their mobile sensory bus, which is awesome. That's something Joan will tell you guys about a little bit later. And then of course, Fellowship of Christian Athletes and many local college and high school athletes and coaches and many others are joining us here in camp. Now, what are the different types of volunteers at camp? Okay, so the first would be buddies, and buddies are assigned to one camper, and buddies assist camper as needed in accomplishing camp activities, okay? And we'll dive in a little bit deeper into what a buddy is a little bit later in training. Next is our station leaders and helpers, okay? They're assigned to one station, and they coordinate and execute the station activities. So for example, these people might be assigned to just the soccer station throughout all of camp. Next is our floaters. Our floaters will fill in wherever needed, and they're also our troubleshooters. They're the people that you will reach out to if you have any challenges at camp, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in training. Of course, we have nurses who will handle the medical issues that arise at camp, and then we will have just our general camp staff. These people will be in our white shirts with the All Abilities logos. Once again, just some troubleshooters to help float around and solve any problems that might arise. So I'm gonna press pause here, allow you guys to use the chat function, make sure you're awake, and see if you can enter into the chat some ideas about what makes a good coach or volunteer. Consider what qualities inspired you the most about your coach and mentor when you were a kid and why, and send us your answers in the chat. Megan says, encouraging, Carrie, patient. 329359 says being engaging and interactive. Jen says guidance. Haneen says they are a leader, not a boss. Sarah Foster, personable. Emily, kind and understanding. Joan, empathetic. These are all great answers, you guys. Being supportive, Zach B. M. White, understanding. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks for engaging there, you guys. We will move on, and I'll just tell you a little bit about what we think makes a great coach or volunteer, right? So all of our volunteers can be good friends. to everyone that's involved, right? That goes back to our love theme. A motivator and encourager, patient and flexible. You guys, this camp in some ways is organized chaos. Okay, we're gonna organize it as much as we can, but there will certainly be things that are out of our control. And so coming to camp with an attitude of patience and flexibility can be a very good thing as you move forward into it. Also, we think a good coach and volunteer is attentive and caring and a good communicator, which we will talk a little bit more about our communication skills here in just a little bit. So what are the basic volunteer expectations, you guys? They're really simple. Show up on time. Stay with your camper at all times. If you're a buddy and you're assigned to a camper, make sure you stay with your camper. For everybody, focus on the camper experience while at camp, okay? I've got check your luggage at the door, right? If we can just put everything to the side for 2 days and really lock in with these campers, I know it'll be a special experience for them. Also, don't be afraid to ask another volunteer for help. We have many trained professionals at camp, okay? And so if you need some help, please reach out, ask them for some help. Do your best not to take things personally. There are going to be some activities that go really well and some that don't, and some days that are better than others. It's all good as long as we continue to just focus in on that boundaryless fun and unconditional love piece. Please help with setup and cleanup. Please attend the pre and post camp huddles, and also plan on attending the awards banquet to cheer on your camper or the other campers after camp. And also a word on phones and social media, okay? So while at camp, please do your best to unplug from your phone and plug into camp, okay? We'll have professional photographers there at camp to capture pictures and video. We will post those pictures on our Facebook page after camp so everybody can go in there and take off what they want. So like I said, just do your best to unplug from your phone and plug into camp, remembering that our #1 goal is to love the campers. And then what to bring to camp. It's going to be warm, I'm sure. So wear athletic wear, shorts or pants with pockets would be great. There is occasionally maybe a knick-knack here and there that you might have to put in your pocket. So pockets would be helpful. Comfortable shoes would be great. And also think about maybe bringing a small bag. Okay, for those of you that are buddies, this would be an optional thing to bring, but it could help you in carrying your camper's water bottle. Okay, so every camper will have a water bottle, and if you had a small bag to maybe put that in, that could be helpful. And then also know that every volunteer will receive a volunteer t-shirt at camp. What to expect upon arrival at camp. Okay, you guys, so we want you to arrive at camp 45 to 30 minutes prior to the start of camper check-in. This allows us to stagger our volunteer check-in before our camper check-in, so it's helpful if all of our volunteers show up prior to campers showing up. That way we can all be on the same page by the time our campers get to camp. I've already covered parking in parking lot 2 or 3. From there, you'll go into check-in at the volunteer check-in table. That's where you will receive your marching orders. And then from there, you will attend the volunteer pre-camp huddle for a refresher on camp objectives. And then from there, you can go on and execute your marching orders, okay? After camp, make sure your camper is paired up with your parent if you're a buddy. We want to make sure that we don't just leave our camper, right? Make sure they get back to their parent. Please help with cleanup on anything. Attend the volunteer post-camp huddle for debriefing on camp objectives. And then Friday only, if you're a buddy, we want to ask you to write a note to your camper, okay? So that's something special we do at camp. We have our buddies write a note to their camper, and then they present that note to their camper on Saturday at the awards banquet. And then Saturday only, we want you to find the table that your camper's family is sitting at, and we want you to go sit with them at the awards banquet, okay? And we'll have a seating chart at the posted in the room, but just want to let you know that you'll be sitting with your camper if you're a buddy. And then the awards banquet, okay? So there's 30 minutes between the end of camp on Saturday and the awards banquet starting on Saturday, okay? And so during that 30-minute window, if you're a buddy, we want you to go obtain a coin, which is our award for our campers this year. Go obtain a coin for your camper and take it with you to your table. We want you once again to sit at the table with your camper and his or her family. And then all campers will be recognized at the same time. And during this time, you will give your camper his or her award, which is a coin this year. and the note that you have written from your camper or to your camper from you. And also please note that food will be provided at the awards banquet. That's the only time food will be provided at camp. So please bring a snack if you want to have any other snacks outside of that. And from here, I know I've been talking for a very long time, so it'll be nice for you guys to hear a different voice. I'm going to pass the ball over to Joan Bauer, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what to expect with respect to our campers at camp.
All right, so we're going to get to know our campers. So first we want to talk about what is a developmental disability. Very quickly, disability is a natural part of the human experience that does not diminish the right of individuals with developmental disabilities to enjoy the opportunity to live independently, enjoy self-determination, make choices, contribute to society, and experience full integration and inclusion in the economic, political, social, cultural, and educational mainstream of American society. And again, the most important part are the first 9 words of that. A natural part of the human experience is as natural as eye and hair color, shoe size, skin color. 1 in 5 Americans has a disability, whether it's visible or not. And it is the largest minority group that you can join at any time in your lifetime, whether it's an incident at birth, an accident, or due to old age. Okay, next we'll move on to the 3 words, mainstreaming, integration, and inclusion. So what we want to know about this is we start with mainstreaming. Back in the day, they just put everybody together without any supports in the classroom. And we're using this as an example for you at camp so that you can take information with you from this today and use it in your home, in your community, and wherever you need to help educate people. And we move on to integration. Again, maybe people are all together and this time they have supports, but they're still not socially involved with the rest of the group. And as we move on to inclusion, everybody is all together doing all the same things. And on the outside is a support, and it's there if it's needed. So inclusion or not, why is it important? And how does this apply at camp and away from camp? Again, we want everybody to have the opportunities that they desire. So we're asking all of you to open your hearts and your minds so that everybody has the opportunities that they desire. So for disability categories, we're going to address non-physical, which is cognitive and developmental, and physical with this orthopedic. So we'll start with the autism spectrum disorder, also known as ASD or autism. So for this one, we explain autism as a neurodevelopmental disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and to interact with others. And there's a wide range and severity of symptoms as well. And again, it can vary very widely. So what we want to talk about is when we go to interact with our individuals, Megan's going to talk about how we communicate with individuals that might be nonverbal, how to look at strategies, how to look for triggers, and things that you can do to help support your individuals. There is a video you can watch if you'd like to learn some more. It's on the screen here, so make sure you have an opportunity to look at that if you'd like some more information. We'll move on to non-physical Down syndrome. So this is a genetic disorder that is associated with delay in cognitive ability, physical growth, and some common characteristics include there might be some challenges with vision, with hearing, with speech impairments, and the speech impairment might impact communication. They might exhibit physically low muscle tone, and they may become very tired very quickly. They can be very sociable, more so than other typical children, and physically expressive by giving hugs. So again, if you need to know any information, please make sure you're checking your fact sheets and that you're checking with the individual if they can tell you, and with the family as well. So we'll move on to ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. All right, this is a condition that it includes attention difficulty, maybe hyperactivity and impulsiveness. It can be one or all of these together. And it does begin in childhood, and it never goes away. It follows you into adulthood. As we move on with this diagnosis, it's important to remember you might see the same things in ADHD as you see in autism. So as Megan speaks to you later on again about that communication, using visual aids, all of those things, they might apply to lots of different diagnoses here. Some non-physical. So disabilities may impact a camper's ability to self-regulate, and that means get themselves where they need to be, their place in space, or to control their emotions. This might be often viewed as acting out or misbehaving. Again, when we see misbehaving or acting out, usually it's a form of communication. So make sure you're using your observation skills. Campers may exhibit, again, a wide range of emotions. There might be some behaviors that you may not always see typically. Their frustration level might be very visible to all around you. They can be easily agitated. And please make sure you're looking and knowing what the triggers are. You know, sensory sensitivities that we're going to talk about constantly are things that might not bother you, but they might bother somebody else. So please pay attention to what a trigger might be. Okay, we move on to cerebral palsy. Again, this is a disorder of the muscle tone, and it affects movements or posture, and it is caused by brain damage before, during, or following childbirth. Characteristics may include, there may be impaired motor control, there may be difficulty or challenges with balance and coordination. Speech, there may be some difficulties as well, may be hard to understand. They may be very quick to dehydrate and fatigue easily. But again, somebody who has a physical disability does not mean they're cognitively deficit. There is not a deficit there. So make sure you keep that in mind, and make sure you're always asking how to support. If the individual is old enough, ask the individual. If not, make sure you're asking the family again, reading that fact sheet. And remember, we want to presume competence with all of our individuals and children. Assume they can do something. And if they can't, then what are you going to do? You're going to ask them, how can I help you? Do you need help? And again, if there's a link on the slide, that's a video that you can watch to learn more. Traumatic brain injuries, TBI. So this could be permanent or temporary impairment of cognitive, physical, and psychosocial function resulting from, it could be a bump, a blow, it could be a jolt to the head, or a penetrating head injury. This could be a result from a motor vehicle accident, a slip, a trip, or a fall. So when we talk about how we're going to work with somebody that might have a traumatic brain injury, again, we're going to talk to the individual. If not, we're talking to their family. We want to always make sure that we're breaking down tasks, that we're looking to see what a trigger might be, and then monitor the overstimulation too. Always keep an eye on your individual to see where they're at and how they're feeling. Muscular dystrophy. All right, this is when there is a group of muscle diseases that results in increased weakening and breakdown of skeletal muscles over time. So again, someone might utilize a wheelchair. They may have some braces, a walker, or some crutches. Be sure, once again, that you're asking if they need assistance or if there's something special that they need throughout the day, any kind of accommodation. When we talk about vision and hearing, so someone who is visually impaired might be higher functioning in other senses and their cognitive abilities. This person will usually require more than one buddy, one on each side, especially in a group activity. Make sure you're giving verbal cues and give details when you're describing things to them. And you might want to place yourself in front of someone when speaking. Maybe they get their visual cues from your face or from your body. And if they read lips, they could read your lips. Someone with an hearing impairment might also utilize hearing aids, or they might have a cochlear implant. So make sure you know what they're at camp with and that they hopefully don't lose anything while they're there. So again, as we spoke to before, presuming competence, we always want to presume that our campers are capable of accomplishing the activities that they are participating in until you see otherwise. So give them that opportunity. And prior to camp, buddies will receive a camper disability profile for your viewing. So make sure that you have an opportunity to read that. It has specific information about your camper's disability. And all volunteers are expected to read this prior to camp. And if you have any questions, I think Tristan always says he's available. Please contact him and he can get you more information as needed. So I'm moving on to my friend Megan.
Thank you, Joan. All right, one way we want to help you all out is to offer you some communication tips. These tips may not be needed for all of the campers, but these are ideas you may find helpful and to help you get familiar with terminology that you'll hear at camp. So one important concept is using person-first language. This is a respectful way to describe someone without identifying them by his or her disability, such as shown in these cartoons. For example, you would say child with Down syndrome instead of Down syndrome kid. And you would say she uses a wheelchair instead of she is confined to a wheelchair. When in doubt, if possible, you can ask the person how he or she prefers to be addressed. Another important concept that we use at camp is called front loading. Front loading is when we mentally prepare someone for what is going to happen. This lets the camper know what to expect and reduces anxiety and fears about the activity. It also can reduce tantrums and meltdowns. Front loading can be provided verbally or with pictures and visual supports. Okay, so here are some examples of visual supports that we'll use at camp to provide front loading. The macro schedule will be a large poster at the registration area to show the camp events. The micro schedule will be at each station for volunteers to hold if your camper will do better referring to it at each station. The activity card will be at the stations and allow volunteers to check off completed stations so that campers can see how they're progressing through the camp. You do not have to take any of these tools if your camper doesn't need them to get through camp. We will have communication boards. They have common pictures that campers may want to use to indicate if they need something. These will be at each sports station. And visual timers can help campers visualize the time that's left and know when the activity is over. To help ease transitions between camp activities and to reduce anxiety, we're using several strategies to communicate when it's time to transition to the next station. We will use picture schedules, as I already described. A large clock will be at the field so campers see how much time is left at the station. Volunteers can also use an app on their phone, like the time timer, which is showed on the slide. This shows how much time is remaining. There will be a 5-minute remaining announcement called on the fields, and we will use the song Happy by Pharrell Williams at the 1-minute mark to communicate when to transition. So this will be the time when you start to end your activity, get your activity card marked if your camper's using it, and then switch to the next station. There are other strategies you may want to use as well. You can use first then language, which would be first get the ball, then kick it in the goal. You can use, make sure you use concrete language and not figures of speech like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Try to use 1-step instructions and be patient and allow processing time. So if a child has a 5-second delay in their communication, you may have to wait 5 seconds for them to hear you, process what you said, and then follow through with the response. Another tip is to be engaging and excited. The campers will have fun if you are having fun. sorry, I forgot to mention, so make sure you listen, watch, and ask questions to confirm. 90% of communication is nonverbal. So as you get to know your camper, you'll get to know that he or she is engaged and having fun. This may look different in every camper. All right, we always think of communicating as talking or having a conversation, but it is so much bigger than that. Campers may use one or a variety of communication methods. For verbal speech, this includes vocalizations like crying, whining, and coos. Nonverbal speech includes facial expressions and behaviors, pointing, reaching, and pulling to items, waving, clapping, and using sign language. A communication device, many kids know and call this as their talker. If a camper has their device at camp, they are likely skilled enough to use it independently. A picture exchange communication system is when the child will point to or give a picture to you to communicate what they want. Many kids use more than one of these methods. So what to do if there is a communication breakdown? This may occur if a child's upset or needs something, but their communication's unclear. You can ask for clarification and ask them to repeat themselves as able. You can use a communication board that's provided at each station or field. This has the basic wants, and you can point to and say the word and look to the camper for their response. And if the camper remains upset, you can look for the volunteer, a leader, or a parent to assist you. Here are some common signs you may see your camper use or you may use to communicate with your camper. So we have help, more, finished, or all done, water, bathroom, mother, father, please, and thank you. Some campers may use a communication device or a talker to communicate if they are not able to speak verbally or they have speech that is difficult to understand. These are some examples of some communication devices. Each device varies person to person. Some use less buttons while others have different levels. They use using pictures or keyboard formation. If your camper uses a talker, don't panic. This talker is their voice. They push the button and the talker speaks the words. If your camper has a talker, make sure they have access to it at all times. You can hold it while they're doing activities, but don't set it down and don't walk away from it. That is their voice, and taking it away is like covering their mouth of a verbal child. And we would never do that. We value all of everyone's words. So responses when using a talker take longer, so be patient and encouraging. You can try to use a prompt like, tell me on your talker. Out of respect, do not use a child's talker unless instructed by the caregiver or the child. Here's a little more about communication. So how does your camper communicate? Read your camper profile and don't hesitate to ask the camper or parent if you have any questions. Provide help when needed, but don't assume that it is needed. Address the camper first and then the caregiver. So for example, when you're meeting your camper for the first time, introduce yourself to the camper first, and you can ask, who did you bring with you? Strategies that all campers would benefit from: face-to-face communication, coming down to their eye level when you can and make appropriate eye contact, especially for campers that are deaf or hard of hearing. Use a normal tone of voice with all campers. Be patient and allow extra time to respond. You can combine a word with a gesture or movement to help the camper understand. So for example, you can point to the soccer net while saying, kick the ball into the net. You can use communication boards when you're unsure or ask for clarification. Acknowledge your camper's emotions and your camper's communication attempts. So for example, you may say, I can help you. I see that you're excited, or I see that you're scared. How can I help you? If you don't understand what the camper is communicating, don't panic. Encourage the camper to use all the forms of communication we discussed to help you understand. Be patient and reassure the camper that you hear them and you will help them. Once again, we want our campers to feel loved and encouraged to participate and have fun. Thank you. And now it's on to Tristan.
Awesome. We're rolling right through this, guys, and I know it is a ton of information. So like I said, you'll have an opportunity to revisit this or to look at the slides later on as we send those out. I'm going to jump into some of the specific camp activities now and just give you an idea of what you can expect with respect to the particular sports that will be going on at camp. Okay, so first is our soccer station. And at our soccer stations, this will be both the younger kids field and the older kids field. We will have multiple different sized balls. We will have some balls that have bells in them and things of that nature. We'll have some different sized nets that will act as goals as well, and some cones and flat discs and things of that nature that you can use. And what you can expect at this station is on Friday doing some of the basics like dribbling, passing, shooting, those types of things. And then on Saturday, it might be a little bit more of a game day, sort of a competition where we break into teams and compete a little bit more. And within each of these slides, as we send them out, just so you guys know, the email of each of the leaders of our stations is in the notes section. So if you want to email your particular station leader for more information, please feel free to do that. The football station is going to be similar to the soccer station in that we will have multiple different size footballs. You'll probably see some agility ladders and a few pads that we're going to run into and block and all of that on day one at least, and possibly day two as well. Participants will learn how to throw and catch the ball. They'll learn how to run with the ball. And there will probably even be, as you see in the pictures there, some catching of touchdowns and end zone dances, which is a lot of people's favorite part of camp. So it's a really fun and exciting time at the football station. Our baseball and softball station, once again, going to be a day one where we're teaching the basics of throwing, catching, hitting, running the bases, and fielding. And then day two will be a little bit more of a scrimmage style. We'll have adapted balls, bases, gloves, and other equipment. And the way that you can help as a volunteer there is to help determine the appropriate equipment used for your activities. So this applies for all stations. You know your camper best besides his or her parents that are going to be at the camp, right? So you can help us determine what will be best for your camper on that field. There will be a variety of balls and bats and batting tees and whatnot on that field. So just keep that in mind as you move into that one. And then the fitness station. As you can see, there's some obstacle course types of pads and things of that nature that we'll be working around and over and through. So to help out there, you can just help demonstrate, help your buddy get through the obstacles or whatever he or she might doing. Some other things you might encounter on the older kids field is some punching bags and some boxing gloves and things of that nature as well. I think they're going to get into a little bit of boxing there. So just keep your eye out for that as well. And just so you guys know, our younger field will mimic our older field in those 4 sports, but our younger field will also add 4 extra stations. So if you're a buddy on the younger field and your camper's just not feeling a particular sports station, he or she, accompanied by you, can go explore the yoga station or the parachute station or the tie-dye station or the sensory bins. So please feel free to switch for your camper if you feel like he or she is just not very engaged with the current activity. Also, I'll mention one more time on that younger field, there will be a fence around it, okay? I just want everybody to remember that, and I'll talk about that a little bit more toward the end. Also, one more bit of house cleaning. If you feel like your camper would be better suited on the older field, but you start out on the younger field, please, let's feel free to make that transition, or vice versa. If your camper starts on the older field and you think, well, I think my camper might be a little bit more suited for the younger field, then let's talk about making that transition, okay? All right, we're going to dive into the role of a buddy a little bit more deeply, okay? So what we think makes a good buddy is a friend, a protector, looking out for the safety of the camper, a training partner, a behavior model, a facilitator and mentor, and a liaison to parents, coaches, and peers, okay? And so for our buddies that are interacting with campers with non-physical disabilities, going back to some of Megan's communication advice, maybe you can explain activities in a 1-2 step sequence. Maybe you can allow for more time to react and respond. Be alert for cues of overstimulation, right? Sometimes they'll put their hands on their ears or flap their arms, right? That might indicate that they're overstimulated and we need to take a break. Learn the warning signs of that overstimulation and learn to de-escalate. And don't take it personally if a camper struggles a bit. Also, our role of buddy of campers with physical disabilities, Back to Joan's point, maybe you want to use your voice and your hands and your arms to help guide the camper. You'd also want to create a safety zone for all players, right? Give your camper some space. Provide balance and stability, right? And sometimes you might need multiple buddies to accomplish this. So just keep that in mind. And then a word to buddies as well in competition when playing with or against your camper, okay? We want to, most of the time, assist, don't score. If you are in competition, try and keep the score close, okay? Also, look for campers who haven't participated in a while and get them involved. It's okay to block for your camper when appropriate, right? Not super physically, but once again, just creating space for them to participate is okay. And you might want to suggest positioning for your camper and encourage teamwork, okay? Once again, we just want to primarily make this about having fun and not winning. So don't come to camp to boost your ego and score a lot of goals, okay? Also, one final word to our buddies. Your camper might not show up, okay? It is a free camp, and by the nature of that, we do have some campers that just don't show up on the day of camp. If that happens, we do have a plan for you, okay? We'll probably wait about 10 to 15 minutes after the start of camp to make sure that your camper doesn't show up late. And then once that happens, we will reassign you to either go be a buddy with another camper, and so that camper might end up having 2 buddies, or we might assign you to a sports station, or we might just assign you as a floater doing something else at camp, okay? So we will make sure and gather you all who don't have camp or who have campers that don't show up right after camp starts to make sure that we reassign you to a station. The role of a station helper, okay, so the station helper would be assigned to one particular station. So for example, you might be at the football station. This person will help explain the station as needed. They will play their role within the station as directed by the station leader. They will look out for the safety of campers, once again. They will demonstrate the desired skill or activity as needed, and they will encourage campers and celebrate successes. And then our floaters are our most generic of volunteer positions, okay? And they can often be assigned to any random thing at any random time, okay? But some of our floaters are also trained professionals, and they'll be walking around camp to just make sure that none of our buddies need extra assistance. And so once again, a word to the buddies, you might have a floater come up and ask you if you need help. Please don't take that personally. We just want to make sure that everybody has the assistance that they need at camp and they feel comfortable. Okay, and so buddies will continue to help. Floaters will continue to help to look out for the safety of our campers and encourage and celebrate successes as well. All right, we're into our last section, you guys, and this is safety and other concerns. So we'll jump straight into medical concerns. These are types of things that we might want to go see a nurse for, okay? So heat exhaustion, seizures, anaphylaxis, any sort of allergic reaction, minor scrapes, cuts, and abrasions. It is a sports camp, so minor scrapes, cuts, and abrasions are likely to happen, you guys. So let's just make sure we take them to the nurse on that. There are the possibilities of eloping and running, which I talked about earlier on, and that's why we have a fence around that field too, okay? We're trying to keep you guys from chasing our campers all around camp. And then lastly, some tantrums and meltdowns might occur at camp. Now with eloping and running and tantrums and meltdowns, we don't necessarily have to go find a nurse right away, but if you need some assistance, that might be a great place to go, or to find a floater wearing a white shirt that can help out too as you navigate that. And just so you guys know too, I have links in the notes section of this slide. So when we send it out, if you need more information on any one of these things, by all means, jump into the notes section on these slides and read a bit more about it. When a non-medical concern arises at camp, okay, we want to just identify the concern and communicate with the camper if possible and when needed. Ask a lot of questions, identify the supports needed, create a plan of action, and follow through. Okay, if you find yourself unable to overcome the concern using the plan above, please find one of the lead volunteers. Our lead volunteers will be wearing white shirts with the color All Abilities logo, which is red, blue, and yellow. Ask that lead volunteer to assist you. And if you guys can't overcome it, then please ask that lead volunteer to call me or escort your camper to the nurse's station so that the nurse can call me and the parent of the camper. Here's our camp nurse contact information, Angie and Jennifer. If you need to reach out to them, this is their information for you. And then I'm going to pass the ball back to Megan to explain the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown.
Thank you. Okay, so one thing to be aware of is that there is a difference between a tantrum and a meltdown. They both may look the same with screaming, biting, and kicking, but there are differences in why they happen and how to handle them. So with a tantrum, it's driven by a want or a goal. It's usually because they want something and they're checking to make sure you're paying attention, and they act this way in front of an audience. And once they have what they want, the behavior usually ceases. For example, if a toddler is at the store and asks mom for candy and she says no, then the toddler may kick and scream to get mom's attention and stop if mom gives in or continues to ignore the behavior. But with a meltdown, it's driven by a reaction to something, and it's not a choice. It's a reaction to overload or feeling overwhelmed. They don't care if they get attention or not. The behavior continues even without an audience, and there is no goal. The behavior only stops once they've calmed down or a loved one has helped them regain control. For example, if a child that is overtired and becomes overstimulated at a fair by the large crowds and the loud noises, the child may become so emotionally overwhelmed that he loses control and can't keep it together anymore. The child doesn't even know what he wants at that time. So for meltdowns, here are some tips to avoid a meltdown. You can use front loading, which we talked about, to give a heads up. You could try pairing visuals with instructions, like using first then language. You can try reducing extra sensory input. You could go to the sensory bus, which Joan is going to talk about, or to the cooling stations. You can make sure expectations are reasonable and provide choices when able. To handle a meltdown once it occurs, if it occurs, stay calm, limit your communication methods to decrease overstimulation, ignore the behavior but never the camper. If it seems dangerous, help remove others and provide a safe area. It's okay to ask for help. Be patient and let the meltdown run its course. You can reward positive behavior. You don't need to discuss what happened negatively right that minute. And see if you can determine what the trigger was and how to avoid it next time. And now on to Joan.
Thank you, Megan. So next we're going to talk about the mobile sensory bus. This mobile sensory bus is a partnership between Inclusioneers, which is a nonprofit, and Summit DD. So we want you to imagine a softly lit, quiet space filled with captivating lights, soothing sounds, and flexible seating. So discover the sensory bus, which is an intervention that provides a quiet place at community events, camps, or other community settings where an individual can go to A, prepare for an event, or B, cope with stress. The sensory bus may be where an individual starts his day so that they can prepare for the activities that might lie ahead. It's designed to be a calming space so that they can take a break and then they can return to the event or to the activity. So some strategies of how you might want to help your volunteer, how the volunteers can help their camper. So you might want to prepare the camper for what is going to happen. So as Megan spoke to before, first and then we going to talk about the new sensory experiences that we're going to have, and never force sensory info on a camper. So if they refuse to do something, think of ways to modify the activity or to change it. And make sure you're honoring the camper's response. So if the camper displays fear, make sure you're stopping and that you change the activity, or if possible, ask the camper how they are doing and how you can help them. Okay, we're going to go back to Tristan.
All right, you guys, we are to the final slide before thank you and questions. So this is just about bathroom breaks, okay? So you'll see the map here. The red dots are where the restrooms are located at camp. There's a porta potty right here next to the softball field. And then there's bathrooms right here in this little building with a blue roof, which will actually be right next to where the mobile sensory bus is, okay? So there's two options for bathrooms. Bathroom breaks will be handled by the parents of the campers or by specially trained volunteers, okay? So should your camper need to use the bathroom, please escort your camper to the nurse's station so the nurse can call the parent of the camper or the bathroom break volunteer. From there, the parent of the camper or the bathroom break volunteer will accompany the camper to the restroom and bring him or her back to the nurse's station to reacquaint with his or her buddy. So that's it. We want to thank you guys for joining us. We are going to open it up for questions. I will ask that if you have a question, you just ask a question that pertains to the group, and it's not something that you and I could discuss offline. So please shoot with questions if you have any. I'll open up the chat if you feel more comfortable typing them, and otherwise we'll wrap up here soon.
Hi, Tristan. Is there a rain date, or what is the plan for rain?
Yeah, great question. So CVCA has a large facility, which is actually where we're doing the banquet, that has 3 basketball courts in it. So if there's a rain day, we will transition into that facility and modify whatever we need to make it work. We're hoping that there's no rain, but you never know. So great question. We will stay right there at CVCA, and camp will continue to go on. All right, looks like we might be out of questions. Speak now, forever hold your peace. All right, you guys, thanks so much for being on the call. We're so oh, hang on, one more question. Sorry if this is a silly question, but where will parents be? Will they be with their camper or watching from afar? They can do, so they will not be with their camper, right? But they will be at the field wherever you're located, most likely. We do have some bleachers on the turf field that parents can sit in. And then on the younger field, there will be a shady area under some tents that you'll probably find a lot of our parents. Parents can come and go from camp this year, so if they want to leave, they possibly could as well. But I think a high majority of our parents will still stick around. And then on Saturday, we do have a parent presentation for parents where they can engage in some activities themselves Saturday morning. So they might be in the large banquet facility then. And then one more question, what do volunteers do if we need to use the restroom? Will someone watch our camper for a few minutes? Absolutely, great question, one that I haven't been asked yet, which is good. We will have our floaters walking around in white shirts with the blue, red, and yellow All Abilities logo. If you will find one of them, let them know you've got to use the restroom. They can hang out with your camper for a bit until you get back. Okay, I think that's the end. You guys reach out if you have any questions. Here's my email, but I'm sure all of you have it. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday night, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys in 10 days. Take care, everybody.